Welcome to Automotive News. I'm Alastair Sloane. A couple of weeks ago we presented our bucket list, the 10 roads you must drive in New Zealand before you turn up your toes. The item proved so popular, one fellow came up to me in a parking lot and said, "Get that guy back again. I want to know his choice of gravel roads." That guy is John COKER, and there's not a road in this country that he doesn't know about. Also here again is Motor Industry Association Chief Executive David Crawford, this time about crash tests, car safety and selfish drivers. One man who would have liked a car all to himself the other day is Craig Borland, the president of the Auckland Mustang Owners Club. Craig has been to the launch in the United States of the 2015 Mustang, which goes on sale in New Zealand next year. First, a couple of items of news. The Subaru WRX STI will arrive in New Zealand about a month after the British and American rally champion Mark Higgins attempts to break his lap record for a car around the 60-kilometre Isle of Man TT circuit. Higgins averaged just over 185 kilometres an hour in 2011, driving an American spec STI. He's driving another American spec STI, this time a 2015 model that he believes will be better suited to the demands of the famous circuit. Higgins will complete 3 time runs during the week-long annual motorcycle carnival. The event will take place under full, closed road conditions. Higgins had an anxious moment in 2011 when he nearly lost control of his car at 245 kilometres an hour at the bottom of the infamous Bray Hill.
Generally, what you focus on is what you end up drawing yourself towards. This is where it's very important for me to keep my eyes all the time down the middle of the road. If I look at anything on the left or the right, I'll probably end up going there. Just gathering the mess up. And thankfully we got that back, but that is definitely the biggest moment and one I don't want to have again in a hurry.
Closer to home, the Citroën Club got together in Auckland the other day to celebrate 80 years of the Traction F1, the first mass-produced front-wheel drive car. Club members set off from Auckland on Anzac Saturday on a roundabout run through the Waikato and King Country to the Waitomo Caves. The passion of people in car clubs is something this show is all about. I asked Club President Chris Grove who came up with the idea of travelling to Waitomo in a fleet of old Citroens.
Well, the rationale behind this outing is the 80th anniversary of the introduction of the Traction Avant Citroën into the marketplace. So that was in April 1934. So we thought we'd like to celebrate that. And so the idea came up to have a weekend run, and somebody else in the committee, I think it might have been Bill Hill, came up with a suggestion that we go to Waitomo. So that's where we're heading.
And it sounds like a good idea too, because I understand some of the members have never been to Waitomo.
Well, that was news to me, but there you go. So it's a win-win.
It is indeed, Chris. Thanks for the few comments, and enjoy the weekend. And talking about great car runs, here's another passionate man to tell us where to drive. As we mentioned earlier, we're back with the bucket list. John COKER, who came up with the 10 roads you must drive before you turn your toes up, is here to talk about the 10 gravel roads you must drive before you turn your toes up. Good to see you, mate.
Hi, Al.
All right. Now, when you were here a few weeks ago, talking about the 10 roads, it proved popular. I mean, I got stopped in a parking lot the next day and this fella said to me, "Get that bloke back again. I want to know the 10 gravel roads." Now, we've talked about this. I presume some would be impassable in the middle of winter.
Yes, particularly in the South Island where they go up above the snow line, they're only open in the summertime.
All right. Now, does the South Island provide better gravel roads than the North, or is it even?
Well, it's different. Some of the South Island roads are certainly much longer because I guess there's more back country down there.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. All right. Shall we start from the top of the North Island or somewhere in the North Island?
Yeah, well, in no particular order. If you're an Aucklander, you can actually go up to Warkworth and then go over the Kaipara Flats Glorit Road, which comes out on Highway 16 on the Kaipara Harbour. And it's just an ordinary backcountry gravel road, but there's some beautiful views out over the whole of the Kaipara.
I haven't done that one.
And
is that near Woodcocks Road?
It's near Woodcocks, just the next one up, basically, yeah. So that's one close for Aucklanders. Obviously, a lot of people have heard about the Motu and the Bay of Plenty. go east from Apotiki, and that's about 50 kilometres long, goes up to Matawai, which is sort of roughly halfway between Apotiki and Gisborne on the main road. Used to be used in Rally New Zealand, 50 kilometres, and you're sort of right into the kind of bush you get right through the Uraweras.
Yeah, I think I've done that. You've done that a few times, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's sort of been involved in
Yeah.
motorsport would have been up over that, yes.
All right, where next?
Wanganui River Road.
Okay.
Now,
How much of that is gravel?
well, they've been steadily tar sealing it, and the last time I was on it, I think there was only about 15 kilometres of gravel left. But I mean, it's sort of an iconic road on the North Island, alongside the river for most of the way. You go about 10 k's north of Wanganui and turn off the main road, follows the river all the way up to Pipariki, and then you head back to Ratahi. And that's in total, I guess, about 70 kilometres. But as I say, most of it is now tar sealed, but it's still a great road for the scenery.
All right.
In the South Island, in no particular order, if we start at the top, Molesworth.
The Molesworth Station.
Which you head in from Seddon, which is, I don't know, about 20 k's south of Blenheim. It comes out at Ham the Springs, and the distance between those two places is about 160 kilometres. Now, the first bit up the Awatiri Valley from Seddon is tarmac, but once you get into Molesworth Station itself, which is one of the biggest stations in New Zealand, it's run by Department of Conservation, although they lease it out. It is one of the biggest stations in New Zealand. I mean, it's big sky country, you're up in the mountains.
So what are you looking at, pushing 100 k's of gravel?
Oh, definitely, yes. I guess, particularly in the South Island, you're probably better to go in an SUV or a four-wheel drive. I mean, I know people who've been through Molesworth, for argument's sake, in just their ordinary family car on a summer holiday. You have to check with the dock about when it's open, but normally not till after Labour weekend and not after Easter, because obviously for weather considerations.
Yeah. And going south from there again?
If you're in Christchurch, just head out the back of Rangiora and do Okuku Pass, which sort of goes up into the foothills of, I guess, the Southern Alps, and it comes down into Lees Valley, and then you climb back out of what is called Lees Valley over Ashley Gorge, which comes out near Oxford. So that's sort of a half day's trip out of Christchurch if you want to go and get into the back blocks of the high country of the South Island.
How many k's?
There's about 50 kilometres in there.
All gravel?
All gravel.
Good surface?
Well, it depends on
again, I guess, time of the year.
Yeah, the climate, how much rain they've had. There's a couple of river crossings in there, which can be a bit tricky. So probably if it's rained recently, it'd be best not to go, or certainly go with somebody else, so you've got two vehicles if somebody gets stuck. But normally, an SUV or a four-wheel drive, you don't need a land.
Especially on your river crossings, you want something with a bit of depth and clearance.
And then if we go down to Queenstown, the Nevis from Bannockburn, which of course is just outside Cromwell, that goes south, more or less parallel to Lake Wakatipu, and it comes out at Garston, where the old steam train used to run from. That's about 60 kilometres, but there's also nearly 30 fords in there. So you have to be a little bit careful on the weather before you go in.
Yeah, you wouldn't take anything other than an SUV, four-wheel drive?
I don't think so, no.
No. And how far is that?
Oh, about 60 kilometres of gravel.
Okay. Is there anything further south than... I'm thinking about more around Te Anau and...
There are other roads, but a lot of them don't go anywhere, unfortunately.
Is there an is there a tip, I mean, you're a really good driver, is a tip for people when they go on gravel for the first time? So there'd be people out there say, gee, let's drive that gravel road, but they don't drive on gravel often. And you get a nice fine day and it's a bit scrambly surface underneath.
Well, I guess obviously you're going to treat it with a bit more caution than dry tarmac.
Exactly.
I guess the easiest way to perhaps describe it is perhaps treat it as wet tarmac. Like some gravel roads that don't have a lot of loose gravel on, they actually have lots of grip, and it's pretty similar to driving on tarmac. But if there's lots of loose stones spread everywhere, it certainly gets a little slippery, so you just have to be that much more cautious.
Good thinking. Any other tips?
Obviously in summertime on gravel roads there's dust, and I guess from a safety point of view you should hang back from the dust cloud of a vehicle in front. Secondly, I always like to turn the air conditioning on. And I know there's some people who don't like air conditioning, but it helps pressurise the cabin and keep the dust out of the cabin. Obviously, you wind all the windows up. So
Sure.
you need the air conditioning to keep the temperature at whatever you're comfortable with. But I mean, that certainly works quite well.
It does, huh? So you pressurise the cabin?
Well, that's the
In
theory.
effect, yeah,
That's the theory. I guess it obviously depends on how good the door seals and what have you are, but in a more modern vehicle, it should be fine.
Good stuff. All right, mate, we're going to do this again. We've got to find more roads for me.
All right.
Thank you. See you soon.